Straight going out there to the tubes. We're live. Fade out the music. It doesn't fade as I'm sliding. It waits till I get to a final destination and then fades it all at once. Welcome everyone to the BOINC radio podcast here on the BOINC Network Discord server and Science Commas Initiative YouTube and BOINC Network Twitter. We are upping our production quality this time. We've got a picture of my adorable dog. Isn't she cute?
Oh, I thought that was you.
That is me on a good day. We've got some background music. We got Delta on screen here.
Yeah. You get to see my drink today as well.
And I still hear the echo. I hope it's not echoing on Twitter. I thought we might have solved this by now. Huh. So I'm going to play around. Delta, why don't you tell the good people about your beverage when I go play around with Twitter? But first, I'll tell everyone that you can join us every Friday at about 5-ish p.m. Eastern on the BOINC Network Discord server, where we have been doing this for, 4 years? A long time. This is episode 104, episode 2 on the stream. And we talk about all things BOINC. That's distributed computing, BOINC standing for the Berkeley Open Infrastructure for Network Computing. You can join us in the live chat there on the Discord. Or you can now join us in the live chat on YouTube. Twitter users don't get anything, so haha. So that's that. Now, good sir, how's your tasty drink?
Yeah, before I get to the drink first, I apologize if there's any background noise because I got a fan going on here. It's currently the middle of the Australian summer, so in my room it's a sweaty, looks to be about 27 degrees Celsius. That's about 80 Fahrenheit for you Fahrenheit users. So yeah, I've been sweating for the last week. Australia Day was like particularly perfect. It was beautiful, 32 degrees Celsius. That's like 90, almost 100 Fahrenheit. And then we had a nice thunderstorm that rolled over. Very classic Australian day. So happy Australia Day to those Australians that are here watching or listening to the BOINC radio. But as for the beverage today, I have the genuine Faygo Delicious Firework, naturally and artificially flavored. And it wants to blur it, or not. Maybe.
Did you ask me a question?
No. I said Faygo.
Great. I've been playing my audio and I had you on mute for a while. Look at that. It censors it. How cool is that?
Yeah, I know.
It's disgusting.
It knows that it's copyrighted.
That's great.
So yeah, this is I can only assume an American drink because it has a California cash refund on the back. Yep, it's distributed by Faygo Beverages Incorporated, a national beverage company, Detroit, Michigan, I think. That's right?
Huh, I was just in Michigan for the, yeah, no, that's a place. Is that what you just asked? Is Detroit real? Yeah, that's a real
Is Detroit real?
Yeah, well, that's another question. No, I just got stranded out there during the blizzard recently.
Yeah, I think I accidentally dropped this, so it's going to be a bit flat. And just looking at the ingredients before I drink it, so I can figure out how irradiated I'm going to get after drinking it. And it has high fructose corn syrup. So, yeah. That's actually illegal in Australia unless it's imported.
Hold on, before you drink it, we have some stock audio here. Which would you like to drink to? We were just listening to Acoustic Cinematic. We can do Dance Pop, Daydreaming, Feeding the Ducks, Into Space, Lo-Fi, Night Driving, or Rock.
Feeding the Ducks.
Feeding the Ducks is actually my favorite one.
Is that it?
That's it. This is your drinking music now.
Okay. I don't think the audio is going to appear on the stream because we got Craig recording via Discord. But
it's not going to record on the podcast. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So So let's see how this tastes. I was surprised how cheap it was, but how big it is. It smells like Dr. Pepper. Definitely smells like Dr. Pepper. It's warm.
I'm sorry for that.
I should have got like a glass with some ice in it. Let me take another sip because I gotta think about it again.
I promise everyone, this is very related to BOINC. Just wait for it.
It tastes like if you mixed a Dr. Pepper with a Sprite.
Okay.
Yeah,
that sounds
like
pretty
a more
good,
citrusy
actually.
kind of flavor, but you still get that hint of the Dr. Pepper, like kind of licorice sort of flavor. It's pretty good. I probably wouldn't say that it tastes like fireworks, as it says, but yeah, it's pretty good. It is very, very sugary, though. I will tell you that. Actually, I think someone might know this, but I think it might be the flavor of like a popsicle, because I think you can see on the side right there. There's a.
Oh, I know
those.
Those are very American popsicles. Those are great.
Are they called fireworks?
I don't know. They're called red, white, and blue popsicles to me.
Okay, well, yeah, this is very sugary. Like I'm telling you now, like I would probably want to dilute that.
Okay.
Got
Now
so much sugar in
here's
it.
how we relate this to BOINC. Which BOINC project does that soda most remind you of? Does that beverage most remind you of? You can be existing, dead, or future. Gotcha.
I'm probably gonna say the Latin Squares project.
Yeah?
Yeah, reason is because I'm pretty sure with the Latin squares they have like really colorful kind of like patterns on the Latin
totally
squares.
do.
Or like you can color them, and for some reason this drink, even though it's completely pasty white, gives me a lot of colors like fireworks. So
I've always loved the white of those drinks. Like it is a pasty white,
really?
but it's like glowy and it's kind of pretty. I don't know. But
it's kind of like medicine-y.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So beverage review. Last question, of course. Where would you put it? Your line of beverages.
It's got way too much sugar in it, but it's pretty good. So I'll give it a 6.
All right. Solid review from our boy Delta over here. Drinking drinks, sugar in the morning. Nothing like it.
High fructose corn syrup for breakfast.
All right, let's get to some BOINC news. We have got an Extreme Sports Winter X Game Challenge coming out of SR Base that's starting today at 1 UTC. I don't know how UTC works. Is that AM, PM? Hi, I'm from the US. So this runs from January 27th to January 29th. I'm loading up the form here. It's part of the Winter X Games Challenge, and this sprint is for SR Base. There you go.
How extreme is it? It sounds pretty extreme.
Well, it's extreme. I mean, extreme is spelled with a capital X. No, it's not. It's not that extreme. It's sort of extreme then.
But it's the Winter X Games Challenge. What does that mean?
I think does the X stand for extreme? Like the X Games are just a bunch of like tricks, snowboard, skiing. I think there's skateboarding and stuff in this warmer weather. But I don't know. I don't ride on boards. Okay, so the only board I need is a motherboard. So that's actually all the news we have this week. Don't run to me.
What about wasn't there one from Psyduck?
I don't see it. I do see a LHC at home server upgrade.
Psyduck,
because we're doing 2
22.
weeks. We're going 2 weeks back. I forgot. Yeah. What's up with Psyduck?
Yeah, so Psyduck is moving away from their one of their targets to a different target. They're moving from so they say after doing initial studies on the established SARS-CoV-2 target RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, I think that's how you do it, or as they call it, RDRP. They're departing from protease studies and focusing on RDRP along with NSP targets, whatever those are. So they're still sticking to COVID-19 work, or more specifically SARS-CoV-2 work units, except they're just looking at a different part of it. And I think from the way that they describe it, they're looking at the structure of how the SARS-CoV-2 RNA replicates itself. So that's more of the research that they're moving to. They've provided a really nice diagram of RDRP, which, if you take a look at the news article from SciDoc, is in white color. It's got a very big protein. And yep, they have an RNA chain in the activation site, which is the colorful little thing that's in there. And that's apparently how it replicates the SARS-CoV-2 virus, or rather the RNA or the DNA of it. And an interesting note from the project admin, on a CPU, they tested on a Ryzen 3900X with SMT enabled, and it took them 16 hours to complete this work unit.
Cool stuff. Go
SciDoc.
Yeah, that was going somewhere, and then I forgot where it was going, so I just said go 3 times. All right, coming out of Prime Grid, they, funnily enough, or I don't know if it's funny, the Chinese New Year just happened, and it's year 4,721, and that is a prime number. So they ran a 3-day challenge from January 22nd to January 25th. It's over. But they were searching for primes and stuff. It's what they do. So I hope everyone had fun with that project, with that competition, the challenge. Prime Grid is a great, engaging project that people love. Once you're there for good. It kind of just sucks you in. Would recommend checking them out. They got an engaging community, Discord, their forums for whoever uses forums. Sorry, it came across as I intended. You ancient soul. So that's Prime Grid. What else we got?
I was going to say, make sure you get into Prime Grid and grab your Prime number before they run out.
Nice.
That's actually a legitimate thing, because if we keep crunching these Prime numbers, they'll eventually run out or get to a point where they're so hard to compute that
Does that mean it runs out?
Well, I know that a lot of the smaller GFN tasks have run out, because the GFN has a specific section of numbers that it looks at. So most of the really easy primes to compute have all been computed now. They've all been discovered. So.
Yeah, but primes won't. That's like saying when you finish the last whole Pringle, you're out of Pringles. No. They're there. It's just a little more difficult, and you got to tip the pin over.
Right.
But you do want to get you get recognition for finding the primes, and it's easier to find a prime now than it will be in 100 years, because this computing stuff, I don't know if you heard about it, but there's these chips and semiconductors, and it uses electricity, and it gets hot and needs fans and can heat your house. It's going somewhere, I'm telling you. Speaking of heating your house, though, did you see the thing coming out of the Gridcoin community? I think it was Make a Snack. He did a thermometer with your BOINC project, with your BOINC rig. So the rig would shut off, I think, when the room reaches a certain temperature, so you can actually use it to heat your house. Because the complaint is, so the rumor has it, that people's houses just overheat when they run BOINC, and they have to go in and they just don't bother with it, just shut it off for the summer, because that's annoying to have to keep turning it on and off because it gets too hot. But with this, you just you install it, you run it, whatever. It's a simple script, I think, and I don't think it has any extra hardware you need to buy, but it will just turn itself off once the room is a certain temperature. And I think they're working on a way to make it throttle instead of shut off. So it'll go from, instead of going from all CPUs running to 0, it'll go from all CPUs down to maybe 8, or maybe down to 4, maybe down to 2, maybe down to 1. And just throttle until temperature cools off. Maybe it turns into night, and then it comes back on. Just user experience.
I wouldn't mind trying to help out with that, because I know that it's definitely possible to throttle BOINC, because it uses the RPC protocol, I'm pretty sure. So literally all that program has to do is just send a little message to your BOINC client on your computer, and it'll change how it works.
Yeah. It's really cool, the stuff you can do with this open infrastructure. So yeah, if you want to help, reach out to Alex. So Make a Snack, or Alex, is very active in the Gridcoin community, and the BOINC community. He's also a board member of the Science Commons Initiative. So if anyone's interested in helping, he's got a couple projects going on the side. Reach out to him, give him a little hand, a little open source love, a little boinking, if you will. Moving right along. WEPM plus 2 12-digit factor of P2203 has now been found by the project WANList2. And as always, what?
Who's going to find the 13-digit factor?
It's been found 395,219 times. And again,
that's pretty decent. I think that's probably the highest we've seen it.
Well, I still don't know. Does that mean literally people found it that many times?
I'm not sure.
Like, what does that mean? I'm so confused by this project, but they keep getting results, supposedly.
Yeah, because the thing that they're after is the 13-digit factor. That's what they want.
Why? What? Have you done a project brief on this one?
I think I have ages ago, but it's been so long.
Okay, I'll have to go
I can do another one in 2 weeks.
We should go through, I say it like I helped you with those at all beyond being your co-host and guinea pig. So you should go through like the dead projects and start doing project briefs on those, because you've really hit most of the live projects. I
think I did a few dead projects. Like I know I did Goofy X Grid, which was pretty fun to look at.
Okay.
But yeah, I think probably going through the dead projects would be a good idea. Definitely a Halloween themed one.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good idea. There's like dozens, if not hundreds, of dead projects on BOINC. And we say dead. Maybe they completed their stuff. Like, death is not always a bad thing. Maybe you lived a nice, full life, and you're just moving on to a new state of being, right? So it could be really fun, nostalgic, and whatnot. And now that we're live on stream, you can do some screen sharing stuff. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, cool. Right. Yeah, maybe next BOINC Radio we'll do a project brief.
It's in 2 weeks, right? My February is gonna get nuts. We'll talk off stream about whether or not I'm gonna be here at all. So
cool, no problem.
That said, that's all I got for the news. Oh no, it's not. We got the big news. We got the BOINC workshop, virtual workshop, is taking place on March 1st and March 8th. So it is a 2-day event, 1 week apart from each day. Again, that's March 1st and March 8th. It is a celebration of all things BOINC, distributed computing, and science. I'm getting the website up right now, because I think it's just boincworkshop.org, right?
Yeah, it's just the boincworkshop.org.
They have, yes, there we go. They got that beautiful BOINC yellow in the background. Learn, discover, participate, build BOINC Workshop 2023. Each session is going to be 3 hours. It starts at noon Eastern on both days. It is free. It is online. And they are looking for speakers. And if you want to go, it would be so cool if you registered. It really helps organizers get a feel for what to expect, what to plan for. You know, do they need to just get a coffee table, virtual coffee table for 2 or 3 people, or do they need to?
Do they need beverages?
Do they need beverages, or do they need to go rent out a massive server, buy some Zoom rooms for 500 people, right? It would help. Also at boincworkshop.org, you can find the schedule as it gets filled in. I'm sure there's a lot that is not up there yet because it is fairly early. You can also find their Twitter and a link to the YouTube where there are the talks from last year. Go check it out, and join, register, go.
Yeah, funny thing if you check out the videos from last year, try and find my video, because I know that the day that I recorded, or the day that I presented all that stuff, was the day that my internet decided to start crapping out. Which is very unusual, because my internet I consider to be quite stable, and unfortunately that particular point in time, there was actually a problem with the fiber connections outside my house. So that was the first time that my internet actually crapped out. And I'm surprised that it was able to do it exactly on that time to prove that Australia's internet is crap.
So all that means is you can only go up this year, because you are presenting this year, assuming you get in to speak, and I assume you will, because it's a really cool project. It's the BOINC Census run by the Science Commons Initiative, and Delta put it together, and we got great response. So I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit. Don't give anything away because
Yeah.
big release at the workshop. But
yeah, so the census is pretty much complete. It's in its final draft phase at the moment. All the results have been kind of analyzed, and I've looked through pretty much all of the responses that people put for like specify other. And yeah, so one particular question I wanted to spoil here on the BOINC radio is the question about, we asked a question in the BOINC census about whether you use any other distributed computing platforms. And I listed a few other ones. So I listed Folding at Home, and I listed Dreamlabs, for those that know Folding at Home and Dreamlabs. And I neglected, and I feel kind of stupid that I managed to neglect distributed.net, which is another quite popular one. And we received a decent amount of other responses. People gave some showed some pretty interesting projects. So the one thing I wanted to go through on this radio is what we got from that particular question.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, if you want to see the full results of the BOINC census, they will probably be posted sometime between now and the BOINC workshop. So you'll be able to see them there. But if you want my full analysis take on it and the Australian take on it, then yeah, come to the BOINC workshop. You'll have a blast of a time, and you'll find some really interesting things in the BOINC census. But anyway, onto the actual question. So with the question, so we asked, do you use any other distributed computing platforms? We had about almost 700 people say no, or rather we had 700 responses that said no. And keep in mind that this was like a multi-select sort of question. So you could select Folding at Home and Dreamlabs and other. Or if you were feeling especially devilish, you could have selected no and Folding at Home.
Did anyone do that?
I'm not sure. I haven't done any like combinatorial analysis.
Okay. And for
chances are there were probably one or two that may have. Yeah.
For context here, there's a 700 out of 950 respondents, right?
Yeah, every response that I'm saying here is not exactly one-to-one with the person, because after all, you can select multiple. But there were 930 total. Yeah, 939 people who finished the form. So the results that I'm telling you here is based off of a sample size of around 939.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah, the majority said no, they don't use any other distributed computing platform other than BOINC. The one that came in second was Folding at Home. So Folding at Home is the second most popular, I probably shouldn't say second most, but let's say.
In a survey of BOINC users, it's the second most
in a survey of BOINC users. In a survey of BOINC users, Folding at Home, out of the other distributed computing platforms that were in the form, came out on top. For those of you that don't know Folding at Home, it's a distributed computing project that focuses itself purely on folding proteins and protein docking simulations. I am not too informed about Folding at Home. I might even do a project brief on them at some point. But they focus a lot on just protein docking rather than more sort of broad things like, we'll do astrophysics, we'll do some mathematics, we'll do some biology here. No, they're just purely on folding and docking.
Let me fill that in a little bit. So the Folding at Home is a more permissioned, I wouldn't even call it an infrastructure. It is a project. It is essentially a BOINC project that runs on its own. It was started at Stanford, and it does only do protein folding or that type of medical research. The applications that run on it are granted permission to run on it by the people who run it. And it is the largest supercomputer in the world, or rather it was during the heyday, the reign of COVID. It was, I think, 2 to 3, maybe even 4 exaflops of processing power at a given moment in time, which is wild, right? It really helped researchers get a grasp on what COVID was, how it was operating, how the spike protein worked, all that stuff. Rosetta at Home, by the way, still modeled the protein, the spike protein first. But the genius of folding at home at that time is the number of people that got engaged with the project was just astronomical. It did so much good for distributed computing and bringing people in. And then you compare this though with BOINC, which is an open infrastructure. BOINC itself is not a project. BOINC doesn't run any application, any computing application. BOINC is an infrastructure on which anyone can build an application. Anyone can put their software in there and get their data crunched. So that is the main difference: permissioned versus permissionless, infrastructure versus project.
Yeah, thanks for that, Django. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything about folding at home. And the other option that I put on there was Dreamlabs. And for those who don't know, Dreamlabs, I believe it's a distributed computing project that's sponsored by Vodafone, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
it's Australian, right?
Yes, I'm very sure that it did come out of Australia. And it's a project that's basically totally focused on mobile computing. So the reason why it's called Dreamlabs is because, as you go to sleep, your phone will be crunching science work in the background and sending those results back to scientists. And that's essentially what it does. It's an app that goes on your phone. It's sponsored by Vodafone, so I can get past all the special terms and conditions and everything about loading binaries onto your phone and all that, because everyone trusts Vodafone because it's a big company. Reason I bring that up is because BOINC is having a lot of trouble with Android specifically because they can't load the applications from each of the BOINC projects onto the phone because of the security mechanisms. Dreamlabs is basically pretty much almost the pioneer, I guess, in mobile distributed computing.
Yeah.
Unless anyone else can think of any other particular project that runs on your phone and aims to do distributed computing.
No, but I would like to highlight that point you just made. Like, Vodafone is a trusted big organization. It's a permissioned project. And because that owner of the permissioned project is a big trusted company that if they screw up your phones, they're going to get sued, they can get into all these app stores. And BOINC is a permissionless infrastructure, as I just said. And it's like, that means that anyone can put a BOINC project out there. And if BOINC was on a mobile device and just some user, like, think about your grandma, just like, oh, I'm going to download BOINC. And then she signs up for this project that's malicious. And there's no oversight. There's no one really responsible for that. It's run by an anonymous person. And your grandma gets hacked and her whole social security's gone. Everything's gone. Her life's ruined. And, it's grandma. That sucks. That's a big challenge, right? How do you get BOINC on mobile? So it really highlights the scope of sort of the challenges in computing on scientific data using volunteers or using just idle processing power around the world.
Yeah, I remember using Dreamlabs a while ago to try it out, it was pretty interesting. Made your phone quite warm. Don't really want to be running it in the Australian summer, I'll tell you that.
Did it ever blow up? Because I know you can use BOINC on your phone, right? There is a way to set that up. It's just not in the app stores. So,
correct, yeah.
And I've heard many stories of BOINCers who have, blow up sounds very violent, but it swells up your battery and then your phone dies. Does Vodafone throttle before that happens? Or does
I think it does. I think Dreamlabs does do things to prevent your phone from getting too warm. But either way, if you're doing BOINC or distributed computing on your mobile, I would highly recommend probably only doing it during winter, when generally the air and the ambient temperature is pretty cold. Or if you have some old phones like I do and you don't care whether they blow up like a big spicy pillow, then
that's perfect.
Go use those old phones because and I'm always interested in finding a way to actually short out the battery or something so that we don't have to have a battery at all. You can just plug it in and let it do its thing and get however hot that it wants to get without worrying about the battery.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a quick disclaimer in here. We do not advocate for anyone going out and boinking on their phone to go blow up the battery. Be
Yes.
safe.
No.
Only do what you know what you're doing. Please.
Yeah. So yeah, be careful when you're doing it. And yeah, if you have like an old phone, I mean, it's an old phone, so I don't think it's gonna break your heart or your bank to to run BOINC on it. But yeah, there's Dream Labs pioneering mobile distributed computing, and we had a lot of other responses. So the top response for other was, I think, distributed.net. And for those of you that don't know distributed.net, it's basically just kind of like an online kind of website, and they give you like an app to run on your computer, and it'll just do particular crunching work that you want. If you've ever used Yo-Yo at Home actually wraps distributed.net in its own little thing. And yeah, basically I remember running Yo-Yo at Home a lot because I was really interested in the optimal golem ruler project. And I actually have an interest in finding more and larger optimum golem rulers because in some of the software that I've actually made before, it actually uses golem rulers, which is pretty sweet. So Distributed.net is basically the project that brought you the OGR project, and also a lot of things that Yo-Yo at Home did as well. It's a pretty old project too, and yeah, it's been around for quite a bit. Another big one.
I think it's literally like the second or third distributed computing project that ever existed. I think it's that old. It's well before BOINC is at home.
And I'm going to give you something that's probably even older. One particular project that was mentioned quite a bit in the other section as well is the Great Internet Mercenary Prime Search, or as some people might know it, GIMPs. Or I think other people refer to it as Prime 95. And this one was started all the way back in 1996.
I think distributed.net is before that even, but that is
maybe
very
okay.
old.
We're sitting here with the veterans of distributed computing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't imagine getting into this stuff back in the early 90s. It must have been a different world.
I'll tell you now, they have T-shirts. You can buy T-shirts from the Prime 95 project. Yeah, the Great Internet Mercenary Prime Search is similar to distributed.net in the sense that it's kind of like just basically a website, and you just download the app and you run it, I'm pretty sure. So it's basically a similar project to that. I've never personally done it, nor have I known about this before the BOINC census. So if you're interested in if you're interested in seeing this and trying it out, go to mercenary.org. That's MERSENNE.org. And yeah, or just search up GIMPs or Prime 95, and you should be able to find that as well. And yeah, I guess they're just finding prime numbers.
Sounds fun. People love primes.
Yep.
Prime rib.
And
do you think they're related at all? Do you think prime rib is related to prime numbers?
If they give you 7 ribs, then it's a prime number.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, like it's probably they just give you 7 ribs. And then finally, the last two. These ones were only like slightly mentioned a couple times in the other section. A project called Sheepit. So for those of you that remember the big ugly rendering project from BOINC or Burp at Home, it was doing basically a distributed rendering farm. So if you needed to render something on Blender or some other sort of rendering software, chuck it on Burp, and then other computers around the world will basically just compute it for you and send it back. So basically you could do all this rendering on a computer that doesn't have the hardware that you need, and you can basically just use the other hardware from around the world pretty much for free as volunteers volunteer for it. And this project, Sheepit, is as far as I can see, identical to the Burp project. And yeah, like it does exactly what Burp does. It takes in frames that need to be rendered and renders them and sends them back to whoever requested them. It's it's completely free. It's volunteer. And yeah, if you're interested in running Sheepit, or if you want to do something that's related to render farms and distributed rendering, then check out Sheepit. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And finally, the last one that a lot of people mentioned, it's not exactly a project, but it's kind of like a collection of sort of little things. Learning at Home is a GitHub repository that contains code and other infrastructures to run distributed training of artificial intelligence and machine learning models. The two big ones that people mentioned in the other section of the BOINC census was HiveMind and Petals.ml. So HiveMind is, as it describes in its description, decentralized deep learning in PyTorch, built to train models and thousands of volunteers around the world. And Petals.ml is a machine learning model for language models, for natural language models. As far as I read into it, it's basically like we have this massive natural language model, which has billions and billions of parameters. And to put it on one computer, you need something crazy like 300 gigabytes of RAM or something like that. So what it does is it splits it up into little pieces and basically runs the language model differently on different computers and then collects the answer and gives it to you pretty much. And then HiveMind is basically decentralized deep learning in PyTorch. So those are the last decentralized computing projects that we got from the census. And that concludes the results from that particular question.
Very cool. While you were going over that, by the way, I was loading my dishwasher, and it made me think, gosh, I wish there was a dishwasher at home project or distributed computing project where I could just take a picture of my dishes and it would tell me how to load it.
That could be a thing soon enough. I have a feeling that could be a thing soon enough.
Do you think it's more or less likely than guttering at home?
I think it's less likely than guttering at home, because guttering at home has more or less a clearly defined mathematical equation to do it, and it's easier to model it. Versus you just take a picture of your dishwasher and then it finds out how to do it itself. That's a very, very complex task.
Yes. Yeah, I'm disappointed.
You're going to need a lot of convolutional neural networks for that one.
I understood some of those words.
For now, you'll just have to manually load all of your dishes.
Yeah, and struggle. Just struggle. Okay, so that was a lot of distributed computing projects.
Yep,
a lot out
and
there.
That's all we know from the BOINC census. So next time on the BOINC census, if you come on and share your response, if you know any other distributed computing platforms, be sure to look for that question and let us know what you know, because it's a good opportunity to share with the rest of the community what essentially you use and what other things are out there. Because I didn't know Sheepit at home existed, or Sheepit rather, nor did I know that GIMPs existed. So
yeah, and I did look it up. Distributed.net is February 1997, so you were right. GIMPs is earlier.
GIMPs is the grandfather.
Oh my god, they have their logo is like a Netscape-esque. It's from the era. Oh man, it's so fun. Okay. All right, yeah, and to your point too, there's so much we can learn from the other projects out there doing things different ways. Like maybe we can learn from how Vodafone gets on the App Store. Maybe there can be some sort of organization that takes the legal risk and verifies and reviews the code. This is similar to what what IBM did with World Community Grid, because they were like, it's their project. They had to seriously vet the code they were putting out there to make sure it wasn't malicious or breaking anyone's machine. And that app, that project probably could have gotten through the App Store. It would just have to package it as just World Community Grid, not BOINC. You basically lock people out from choosing their project at that point. But it's an option. There's ways to do this stuff. So there we go. Any more thoughts for the day?
No, I think we're good. I just want to get out of this room because it's starting to get really hot in here.
Oh, if only you had the BOINC thermometer.
I'm not running BOINC at the moment. All my rigs are off because of summer.
Yeah, exactly. If only you had the BOINC thermometer. All right, then we'll take off for the next 2 weeks. Then we'll see you all. What will that be? Feb 10? No. Yes, February 10th. Look at me and my day math. Have fun. Happy BOINCing. Bye.
See ya.